Today, we're going to talk about three new AI capabilities for Power Virtual Agent. They are Boosted Conversation, Generative Answers, and Generative Actions. Most of you would have seen the Boosted Conversation a while back. Basically, you can plug in your website at the time when you create the bot. Now, not only it supports external website, you can also put in your internal SharePoint website. With Generative Answers, now you can add basically an improved version of boosted conversation inside the topic at any node you want. And it supports up to 4 public websites and 4 internal websites like SharePoint and the OneDrive link. The generative actions were released last week during MS Build. Basically, it takes the AI capability to the next level. It can automatically search what you have already built in the Power Platform, whether it's a connector or a flow. Without you building it, the bot is able to, based on your question, it can just pull these actions into the bot and turn them into variables and provide you the response. Now, it is not available yet, so I'm very excited to try this once it becomes GA. Let's check the Microsoft doc before we build the bot. Now, we already know when you use boosted conversation at the creation of the bot, you can use a public website. Now with added internal website, and also you can have them as generative answers within the topic. The internal resources you can use includes SharePoint, OneDrive, Dataverse, and some other custom data. A few things you need to prepare before you can use this capability. One of them is your bot has to be created within the US region. Number 2, the authentication needs to be turned on for your bot. Now that makes sense because your bot needs to access the internal resources of your company. So authentication is a must. Now also when you have a look how this search works, right, for SharePoint and the OneDrive, it's actually using graph search to return the results. Which means, well, your graph needs to work. You need to set the permissions right. So let's go through the steps and actually build it. To set up the bot authentication, we need to register an app in Azure. And later on, our bot will use this app to access internal resources, such as SharePoint. So let's go to Azure portal. I'm going to start a new one. Let's call it Search Intranet. You need to select the third option, including personal accounts. Leave this one optional. Leave it blank for now. Click on register. Your app is registered. Now let's configure the authentication. Click on authentication. Go add platform. Click on web. Now we're going to add this redirect URI. Bring up the doc. We're going to copy the first URI. Copy that. You need to tick both access token and ID tokens. Go configure. Now copy a second URI here. Come back here and then go add a URI. So add your second one. And that's it. Let's save that. So next step, we're going to generate a client secret. And make sure you copy that because we're going to use that. come back here, click on client secret, go new client secret, give it a name. I'm just gonna call it search intranet bot. Go add. You wanna copy your bot secret, the value, just copy that, paste it here. You're gonna use that later on when we build the bot. Next, we're gonna configure the API permissions. So let's go to the API permission. We're gonna go add a couple of permissions. Go to Microsoft Graph. You want to dedicated permissions. So what you need to add is OpenID, profile. Also, you need to add sites.or.read, or other way around. Sites.read.or. Then you want to add files.read.or. Add permissions. So you should have 5 here. Okay. Last step before we configure the bot is to expose an API. Now to do that, we're going to add a scope. Just give it a name. Save that. Scope name, file.read. Let's call it intranet search. We're going to consent both admin and users. Now this just pretty much put anything when it comes to consent, because we're going to grant consent anyway. So just put access intranet access intranet. And I believe that's all. Yeah. Make sure the state is enabled. Click on add scope. Here we go. Now before we're gonna configure the bot, let's come to the API permission here. Let's just grant it all. Okay, now we're ready to build our bot and turn on authentication. Now before we build the bot, I just want to show you how I construct my internal site and how it's gonna work out whether the bot is actually searching the correct content. Now, we already know the public website works from the boosted conversation, so we're not going to test that today. Today, we're going to use a SharePoint. Under the documents, you can see I have a couple of files here. I have the Apple earnings in the PDF, two Microsoft slide in PowerPoint, and a State of Union text in the document. Okay? And the internal search supports 4 file type: the ASPX, which is that one, your page, PDF, PPTs, and docs. And also in my OneDrive, I've created a folder and I supply 2 PDFs for Tesla earnings. So when we ask different questions to the bot, if it responds, we know that file format is actually working and being searched. Okay, let's create our bot. call it search intranet, so it matches our application. Just easy to remember. And I'll paste my SharePoint. Remember, you only need to up to the site, nothing more after that, and you don't need HTTP. So let's get rid of that. Just your domain.sharepoint.com. Click on create. Our bot is created, so let's continue set up the authentication for our bot. So you need to go to the settings, click on security, and basically turn on the authentications. So let's come here, go to the setting, security, I'm going to click on authentication. We're going to go manual and require user to sign in. Now this is actually wrong, but we can't change it, which is also stated in the doc if you look carefully. Now we're going to stick with Azure AD v2, client ID, and client secret. You're going to get that from app registration. Let me just go quickly grab that. But secret and ID, you can get it from the overview of the application. And just go quickly grab that. Client ID, paste in here. And that's it. Pretty simple. I reset the bot by clicking this button. And now you can see the authentication has been turned on. Let's click on login. We're going to copy a code like that. Come back here, type that into the message, and then go enter. Now you're authenticated. Right, so let's ask the first questions. Right, if you remember on our SharePoint, we have a couple of different files. Let's start with the easiest one, the State of Union, which is the docs. I feel like the Word document is most, if it's going to be compatible, that will be the first format will be supported. So let's say State of Union, and see how long it's going to take for it to return. Still thinking we might get an error. Oh, it did. It did work. The State of the Union is strong because of you American people are strong. Here document explains. So it actually links to the original document, the actual Word document. So if I click on that, we should be able to open it. That is the same file. I have it stored on the SharePoint. Now, let's try some other files. We have Apple earnings in the PDF. So let's ask, how's Apple doing last earning? PDF, again, I think that should be the minimum that should be supported. PowerPoint, I'm not quite sure. We'll see. Now, some of you remember that in my other videos, we've done semantic search over your own files, and which I also use the State of Union document. And oh, this actually worked. No, it didn't. How funny is that? Here's the latest information on Apple's earning report, and it went to State of Union. How's Apple's balance sheet? I was saying with the actual OpenAI and the LangChain video I did, I was able to ask quite sophisticated questions like you chat to ChatGPT. Now, this is a bit not semantic. The reason why is, as I explained in the beginning of video, it is actually using graph to search. So it is not really using a machine learning model to do the search. It is using some capabilities from GPT to do the reasoning, but the search is graph search. It's better than probably your SharePoint keyword search, but it's not as good as a true machine learning GPT powered semantic search. Now it actually went to my company. All right. So maybe the name Apple is confusing. It went to a completely different document. Um, Maybe we ask, what did Tim Cook say about the earning? Actually, I haven't read that Apple's 10Q document. It probably doesn't mention Tim Cook's name. So this might go haywire. Now, while we're waiting for that, let's just have a look at the document. Yeah, 10Q wouldn't mention CEO's name. But let's ask some questions on Microsoft Outlook. Satya. Let's come back here. Oh, finally, we got it right. Here's a link to Apple's Q1. So it found the right document. Was able to really process the information, but give you the document. And let's ask Microsoft. What did Satya say about Microsoft Outlook? So as I was saying, this Power Virtual Agent capability is very easy to use, but it might not provide the same capability like you'd speak to a ChatGPT. Right, I found the following information relating to Microsoft Outlook. So it pretty much just showed you, oh, actually, it went to a different document. It's one of my old documents in the SharePoint. What is Microsoft's latest offering? I think I should stop recording and then move on to the next section. This is it's fun, but it's not progressing too well. But we know it's working. It's what Power Virtual Agent is supposed to do. And this is still early days, right? We expect we'll get better. I found some information about. So basically, it just tells you there's some information. Go look at yourself, right? It's not like ChatGPT will give you a summarization. Actually, can you summarize the states of union into dot points? Let's see whether our virtual agent can do that with this capability. See, again, this one is not doing great. I'm asking about Microsoft and I went to the State of Union. That's like way off. That is way off. Okay. It's gonna give a thumb down on this to help the bot to improve. Give it down. No, that's not what I'm asking. Okay. So this is taking awful a lot longer, but State of the Union is a large document. Here's a large document. I will be amazed if it could do a summarization. So based on the Microsoft Doc, we know it's using Microsoft Graph to do search, but how much GPT capability is using, we don't know. And again, it says here's a link to document. Right. Contains summarized dot points. Well, that is just my document. It's not gonna have summarized points. Okay, so that's it for our brief conversation. And let's have a look at the generative answers. To test the generative answers, I'm gonna copy my my OneDrive link. Copy that. And we will go to our bot. You see here before it has went to system topic conversation boosting, right? But now we're gonna create a new topic ourselves from blank. We're gonna say that's Tesla. So let's call it Tesla to trigger the topic. And it Tesla earning. Well, Tesla earning. Make it simple. Why we are here. We're gonna ask user a question, and we're gonna grab the entire answer. All right. What would you like to know? Next, we're gonna go advanced. Click on generative answers. The input gonna be the question, the response we just grabbed, so the var one, and the data source is a SharePoint or OneDrive. We're just gonna paste the whole thing in, and get rid of that, and see whether it takes it. It looks a bit funny, but let's see whether it takes it. Okay, it did without errors. Who knows? Let's save it and try it. Now you realize when we hook up a website to it, it works extremely fast. There's no data ingestion phase. Why? Because everything is already in the Microsoft Graph. Everything you do in the Microsoft 365 ecosystem, they are already in the Microsoft Graph. All your data. That's why this is only performing a graph search on top of the existing data. So it happens really fast. But it's not turning them into the vectors. It's not doing a cosine similarity to do a proper semantic search. Now, let's save this and try it. Maybe we'll reset the bot and see whether this topic will be triggered. Go Tesla earnings. Would you like to know how much money they made last quarter? Is it gonna return a response from the OneDrive? We don't know. We never tested. Officially, it supports the SharePoint page, which is ASPX format. It supports Word Docs, DOCX. It supports the PowerPoint, and it also supports the PDF. Now, so far, I'll say the PDF works. The Docs probably work the best. And while we're waiting for this, let's actually check out these documents. Tesla investor updates, and that's a 10Q. So this looks like actually a lot of figures. Should be able to tell me something. Still thinking. Might have problems. A lot of pictures too. We might try the Azure Cognitive Service in the future video to analyze some of these images. I'm gonna pause the recording and see whether this actually will give us a result at all. We actually couldn't get working. I tried a few times again, and you can see it's hitting this generative answers. It's got a tick, but nothing comes back. Now, just to make sure it's not because I'm using this node, let's try put the same link into where we added our boosted conversations. So come to the AI capability where we added our SharePoint at the creation of the bot. Let's add another one and remove that. Okay, still too long. Do not include query streams more than 2 levels. So it looks like we cannot add SharePoint site here. Sorry, I meant we cannot add a OneDrive site here. That is way too long. Okay, so that just ends our demo with Power Virtual Agent search internal resources. Now, if you are struggling with even the boosted conversation and is not searching or returning anything, there's a few things you can do. Now, first of all, make sure your authentication turn on, and also in your Azure app registration, you need to have both these two permissions, files read and sites read, to be added. Now, we already talked about the search is actually happening within the graph. So all you need to do is make sure your graph search works. To do that, we can come to your Graph Explorer. You're gonna log in and use this post to this query. And this is the requested body. You're gonna do exactly like what I did. Here is a query string. This is your search term. So you can search anything here. Then you're gonna put your file type. I've left two here, the docs and the ASPX, which is SharePoint page. Under the double quote under the path, this is your SharePoint site. So remember just the domain, site, and the name, nothing more. And you're gonna hit run query. And what you want to see is you want to see a hit under here. That means your search string is returning something. Hey, Madam Speaker, Madam Vice President, basically it just returned the first sentence of the union text. Let's try something else. See whether we can do the same thing we did with our LangChain and OpenAI bots. What did Biden say about the judge? Just go run query. No, it returned exactly same result. And as you can see, the search term, this is what I typed in. You see what I mean? It's not actually doing a semantic search. It's just doing keyword search, breaking them down at these separate words, which has no meaning to each other. Lastly, the generative actions. You need to check out this blog post, which I'll link down below. It is pretty wild if it works. It's not available yet. I'm really excited to see it, to test it. Um, Pretty much, as I said in the beginning of the video, the bot will automatically discover what can be used. A connector, a flow to a booking site, or a website to check your weather based on your location. It just automatically pick up things and bring to the bot without you doing anything. So this looks amazing if it works. So thanks for watching these super lengthy videos. Now here's our final thought. The pros, obviously, with PVA, it is super easy to get running instantly. You do not need to build any topics. You can plug in website and we'll start answering questions and I give you the reference. It's super, super easy. But the cons is also quite obvious. It's not a true machine learning powered semantic search like we did with other videos. Why? Because we are not turning the data into vectors. We are not using machine learning type of technology like performing a cosine similarity semantic search. From our example before, you see it's actually doing a keyword search, but it's in graph. Everything you are searching is already in graph. So it's super quick. The result, is it better than the SharePoint keyword search? Probably, because it is using some level of GPT level of reasoning. And you can see how it respond and give you the link. But you can't really ask it to do things like you talk to the chat GPT. Now, to achieve that with Azure at enterprise level, I still prefer the model that Pablo put out with Azure Cognitive Service, which we created our first video but failed replacing with our own data. I think that is my next goal, my next video. And then the third video, hopefully we will be able to plug in the SharePoint or the whole Azure blob to this app, and it will just perform a enterprise GPT level of search. And hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.